Hello everyone, it's Dr. Mohib and we will be going through cardiovascular anatomy. First of all, general heart anatomy. If we look at heart, it has four chambers: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. Blood reaches right atrium via superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. From right atrium, it goes into right ventricle through tricuspid wall. From right ventricle, it goes into pulmonic artery through pulmonic wall, and from there it reaches lungs through two pulmonary arteries. After being oxygenated within lungs, the blood reaches left atrium through four pulmonic veins. After reaching left atrium, it goes into left ventricle through mitral wall. From left ventricle, it goes into aorta through aortic wall, and from aorta, it goes to supply different parts of our body. The four type of valves present within our heart has three cusps except mitral wall, which has two cusps or leaflets. Now let's switch to first aid, heart anatomy. If we look at the MRI of the MRI picture of the heart with contrast, the white structures or white areas are actually the blood filled areas due to contrast. So if we look at this diagram and look at the right ventricle, it is the anterior most structure of the heart, and thus it is most susceptible to anterior chest wall trauma. If we look at left atrium, it is the posterior most structure of heart. Between the blood-filled left atrium and aorta, there is a structure known as esophagus, which is not visible due to the reason that it doesn't contain blood. Now, this location of esophagus is of clinical importance. Now, if we want to visualize left atrium or other structures of our heart, we can insert probe into esophagus and thus visualize these structures. This mechanism or this phenomena is known as transesophageal echocardiogram. Now, any pathology which leads to increased size of left atrium, it can be from different reasons or different pathologies, for instance mitral stenosis or mitral regurgitation or left heart failure, which lead to increased size of left atrium, can compress esophagus and thus lead to dysphagia. Now left atrium is the posterior most part of the heart. Left atrium enlargement, for instance in mitral stenosis, can lead to compression of esophagus leading to dysphagia. It can lead to compression of another structure, compression of left recurrent laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of vagus nerve, which leads to hoarseness, which is known as Ortner syndrome or also known as cardiovocal syndrome. There is another structure which is in close proximity to heart is left recurrent laryngeal nerve, which is the branch of vagus nerve. It loops around aortic arch and ligamentum arteriosum. So any pathology leading to enlargement of left atrium can compress this structure and thus leading to hoarseness of voice. Right ventricle is the most anterior part of the heart and most commonly injured in trauma. Left ventricle is about 2/3 and right ventricle is about 1/3 of the inferior or diaphragmatic cardiac surface. If we look at this chest X-ray and look at the diaphragmatic or inferior surface of heart, we will come to know that 1/3 is made up of right ventricle and 2/3 is made by left ventricle. Now let's switch to different layers of heart. Like other structures, heart is made up of different layers. It is made up of endocardium, myocardium and pericardium. But unlike other structures, its outer layer, the pericardium, has an extra layer known as fibrous pericardium. It is an additional layer. The pericardial space, which is a fluid-filled space, is located between parietal pericardium and epicardium, also known as visceral pericardium. The blood vessels or coronary vessels are located within the visceral pericardial layer. Now, the pericardium consists of three layers from outer to inner: fibrous pericardium, parietal pericardium, and epicardium, also known as visceral pericardium. The pericardial space lies between parietal pericardium and epicardium. Pericardium is innervated by phrenic nerve. The nerve roots are 3, 4, 5, which keeps the diaphragm alive. Now, inflammation of pericardium, the pericarditis can cause referred pain to neck, arms, or one or both shoulders due to innervation of pericardium by phrenic nerve. Different layers of heart can get inflamed. For instance, the inflammation of endocardium can cause endocarditis. The myocardium is known as myocarditis, and the pericardium is known as pericarditis. There is another layer just above endocardium known as subendocardium, which is of clinical importance that it is most susceptible to ischemia. The endocardium reaches or takes its nutrients from blood directly by diffusion. The myocardium takes nutrients from the sprouting vessels of epicardium, and thus the subendocardium layer of heart is the most deficient in terms of nutrients, and thus it is most susceptible to ischemia. Now we have at last the blood supply of heart. There are two vessels sprouting or branching off of the root of aorta. These are right coronary artery and left coronary artery. Now, right coronary artery also divides or branches into acute marginal artery. The right coronary artery most supplies the right sided structures. The left coronary artery further divides into left anterior descending artery and left circumflex artery, and in some instances the left circumflex artery further divides into obtuse marginal artery. The left There is another artery which is located on the back side or the posterior side of heart, and it runs in the middle or the center of heart. It is known as posterior descending artery. The location or the branching of posterior descending artery depends on the dominancy. In dominant or most common cases, the posterior descending artery is the branch of right coronary artery, as in this example. But in some cases, the posterior descending artery can be branch of left circumflex artery, or in some rare cases, it can be branch of both right coronary artery as well as left circumflex artery. The left anterior descending artery and its branches supply anterior two-thirds of interventricular septum, the anterolateral papillary muscle, and anterior surface of left ventricle. It is most commonly occluded. The posterior descending artery supplies the posterior one-third of interventricular septum, the posterior two-thirds of ventricular walls, and the posterior medial papillary muscle, as well as SA and AV nodes as determined by dominance. Now both LAD, the left anterior descending artery, and the posterior descending artery supplies is other, either the half or one part of the structure, and the other artery supplies the other half or the other part of structure, or they are supplying the structures in contrast. For instance, the anterior two-thirds of interventricular septum is supplied by LAD, then the posterior one-third is supplied by PDA. The anterolateral papillary muscle is supplied by LAD, then the posteromedial papillary muscle is supplied by PDA. Same, the anterior surface of left ventricle is supplied by LAD, then the posterior two-thirds of ventricular walls are supplied by PDA. The occlusion occurs in this fashion, that LAD is the most commonly occluded, followed by right coronary artery, and at last we have left circumflex artery. The occlusion of each artery affects the area supplied by these arteries, and or in turn, in other words, the MI caused by the occlusion of these arteries depends on the structure supplied by these arteries. So if LAD is blocked, we will have an MI of anterior wall of left ventricle, or if left circumflex artery is blocked, then we will have lateral wall MI. Now we have, before going any further, I want you to know the different papillary muscles. The cusps or leaflets of walls, for instance in this case the mitral wall, it has two cusps, the anterior and posterior one. These are held together by chordae tendineae, which are connected to papillary muscles, which are conical muscles located within the ventricles. These two structures help to prevent the prolapse of valves, or in other words maintain the one-way valve function of the valves. In mitral valve there are two types of papillary muscles, the anterolateral one and posteromedial one. The anterolateral one has dual blood supply, the LAD, the left anterior descending artery, and left circumflex artery, thus making it resistant to infarction. While on the other hand, the posteromedial one has a single blood supply from PDA, which is from right coronary artery in most cases. So any infarction of right coronary artery or PDA will lead to infarction of posterior-medial papillary muscle, which will lead to mitral valve prolapse. Thus occlusion of PDA or inferior valve MI can also lead to mitral prolapse. In both type scenario, a person will present with MI symptoms, and after few days there will be a new onset mitral valve prolapse. This means that this prolapse was due to infarction of or rupture of posterior medial papillary muscle. Then we have the conduction system of our heart, the electrical activity generator SA node and the AV node. Both of these structures are supplied by right coronary artery. So any infarct or occlusion of right coronary artery will affect these structures, or in other words it will lead to bradycardia or heart block. Now infarct of right coronary artery may cause nodal dysfunction due to its supply, and it will lead to bradycardia or heart block. Right acute marginal artery supplies right ventricle. This area is supplied by acute marginal artery. Now we have dominance. In right dominant circulation, which is most common in almost 90% of cases, the PDA arises from right coronary artery. In left dominant circulation, PDA arises from left circumflex artery, which happens in 5 to 10% of patients. In codominant circulation, PDA arises from both left circumflex artery and right coronary artery, and it happens in almost 10 to 20% of patients. The coronary blood flow to left ventricle and interventricular septum peaks in early diastole. Now, the blood flow to heart occurs in early diastole, which is unique in comparison to other structures which reaches or which have its blood supply in systole. This is due to the location of right and left coronary artery. They are located within the root or at the base of aorta. This is aorta, and these are aortic roots. So during systole, what will happen? The cusps will be pushed towards side, thus closing the right and left coronary arteries, This happens during systole. But during diastole, the valve cusps are drawn back, thus blood supply is restored to both right and left coronary artery during diastole. This is a unique mechanism of blood supply to heart during diastole. Then we have coronary sinus, which runs in the left AV groove, the groove located between left atria and left ventricle, and it drains into right atrium. The coronary sinus drains blood from all of the heart, and it drains into right atrium. So enlargement of coronary sinus will occur in right heart failure. In right heart failure, the pressure within right atrium will increase, which will lead to increase in pressure within the downward structures, leading to increase in pressure within coronary sinus, leading to its enlargement. At last, we have a memory checkpoint. Which of the following arteries supplies SA node? Which of the following arteries supplies SA node? Is it left anterior descending artery, posterior descending artery, right coronary artery, or left circumflex artery? Pause the video and think about it, and the correct answer is right coronary artery. Thank you.